Rain lashed against the grimy windows of the Berlin safe house, distorting the neon glow of the city below into streaks of bleeding light. The room smelled of ozone, black coffee, and gun oil. Victor stood by the tactical board, his sharp eyes scanning the digital blueprints of the monolithic Kestrel Tower in Frankfurt. He traced a red laser pointer across the schematic, tapping the beam against a specific, heavily fortified node on the 45th floor. "The Ares Drive," Victor said, his voice a low gravel that effortlessly commanded the room. "The culmination of a decade of cutting-edge corporate espionage. It houses the unencrypted source code for next-generation drone warfare. It is worth roughly $2 billion on the black market. Tomorrow night, it belongs to us." Marcus slammed a fresh magazine into his matte black assault rifle, the metallic clack echoing sharply against the concrete walls. $2 billion, and protected by an army of ex-military contractors who are paid explicitly not to ask questions before they shoot. I like those odds, boss. Elena didn't look up from her semicircular array of 6 glowing monitors, her fingers blurred across a mechanical keyboard, lines of code reflecting in her dark-rimmed glasses. "The physical security is the least of our worries, Marcus. The digital infrastructure is an absolute fortress. We are talking adaptive ICE algorithms, triple redundant biometric locks, and seismic sensors embedded in the vault floor. If we trigger even one failsafe, the building goes into total lockdown within 40 seconds. We would be trapped in a steel coffin." Victor turned to them, leaning against the edge of the briefing table, his posture relaxed but commanding. "Which is exactly why we do not look at the $2 billion, we do not look at the private army, and we do not look at the digital fortress. You look at the summit of the mountain, you trip on the rocks at your feet. How do we achieve a success of this magnitude, Elena?" Elena smiled faintly, finally hitting the enter key with a satisfying clatter. "One step at a time," Victor said. "Exactly. Step 1, we breach the underground network. Step 2, Elena blinds the digital eye. Step 3, we isolate the vault. Step 4, extraction. If you start thinking about Step 4 while we are executing Step 1, you will get distracted and you will die. Am I perfectly clear?" "Crystal," Marcus muttered, racking the slide of his rifle to chamber a round. "Just point me at the steps." 24 hours later, the heavy steel doors of the Kestrel Tower's subterranean loading dock hissed open. "Step 1, whispered Victor into his earpiece, crouching silently behind a massive concrete support pillar. The subterranean garage was vast, bathed in harsh, buzzing fluorescent light. "I have eyes on 2 tangos, Sector 4, Marcus replied over the comms. He was a shadow, moving fluidly against the gray walls, slipping undetected behind a line of armored transport vans. "Elena, confirm. 100 miles away, parked in a nondescript surveillance van on the outskirts of the city, Elena spoke into her headset. "Confirmed. 2 guards, heavily armed, pinging their heartbeat sensors now. You have a 30-second window before their patrol routes intersect with the primary camera sweeps. "Marcus, take them quietly, 1 step at a time," Victor said. Marcus lunged from the shadows. With brutal efficiency, he hooked his arm around the first guard's neck, dragging him backward into the darkness, while simultaneously throwing a suppressed sidearm toward the second guard. A soft thwip echoed through the concrete cavern, and the second guard collapsed silently to the floor. "Step 1 complete," Marcus breathed heavily, dragging the unconscious bodies behind a row of industrial dumpsters. "I've got the master access cards." "Good," Victor said. "Elena, initiate Step 2. Uploading the spoofing protocol now. You are officially invisible to the primary thermal and optical cameras. Proceed to the service elevator. I am bypassing the biometric locks on the shaft doors. Now." Victor and Marcus moved rapidly through the maze of concrete, swiping the stolen access card at the reinforced steel doors of the service elevator. Victor pried the doors open with a crowbar, and they stepped into the cavernous, pitch-black shaft. I'm overriding the carriage, it's coming down to you, but be advised, my spoofing algorithm is meeting resistance. Their ice is adapting faster than anticipated. They upgrade their security patches daily. Just give us the ride up, Elena, Marcus said, clipping his tactical harness to the ascending elevator cable. The elevator groaned, lifting them rapidly up through the dark spine of the skyscraper. Cold wind rushed past them in the enclosed space. 42nd floor, 43rd, Elena counted down, the rapid clacking of her keyboard audible over the comms. Guys, I have a problem. A silent alarm just tripped on the 45th floor. Someone manually overrode the network from inside the server room. What? Marcus barked, his grip tightening on his rifle. You said the network was blind. It was, Elena fired back, the sound of frantic typing escalating. It's an air-gapped failsafe. I didn't see it because it wasn't connected to the main grid. You have an elite rapid response team converging at the vault right now. Abort. Victor, we need to abort. The entire plan is compromised. The elevator shuddered to a violent halt at the 45th floor. Victor, we have to bail, Marcus yelled over the rushing wind of the shaft. We can rappel down the cables, hit the 30th floor, and extract through the maintenance vents.
No, Victor said, his voice unnervingly calm. He unclipped his harness and kicked open the shaft doors, stepping out into the sleek, glass-walled corridor of the 45th floor. Boss, what are you doing? Marcus demanded, scrambling to follow him out. We do not abort because the terrain changes, Victor said, pulling a high-explosive flashbang from his tactical vest. We simply adjust the steps. Elena, how many in the response team? 6, she said, her voice shaking slightly. Heavy armor, assault weapons. They are holding defensive positions directly outside the vault. Marcus, Victor said, turning to his enforcer, you wanted to think about step 4? Don't. Right now, step 2.5 is clearing this hallway. That is the only thing that matters in this universe. Understood, Marcus answered, one step at a time. On 3, Victor said, pulling the pin. 1, 2, 3. Victor hurled the flashbang around the corner. A blinding white flash and a deafening concussive boom rocked the pristine corridor. Go! Victor roared. Marcus rounded the corner, his rifle kicking violently against his shoulder. Bang, bang, bang. 3 controlled bursts. Sparks flew as bullets ricocheted off the reinforced glass walls. The response team recovered quickly and returned fire, a massive hail of automatic gunfire shredding the corporate aesthetic. Drywall exploded into white dust, and glass shattered into a million cascading diamonds. Marcus, the vault door, Victor shouted over the deafening roar of gunfire, leaning out to provide covering fire with his own rifle. Working on it, Elena shouted back. The seismic sensors are locked down tight. I have to brute force the primary decryption key. You have 10 seconds before they flank us, Marcus yelled, blind firing over the disintegrating marble desk. One of the corporate contractors dropped, clutching his shattered kneecap. Focus, Marcus. Suppressive fire on the left flank, Victor commanded, moving tactically from pillar to pillar. He dropped another guard with a precision double tap to the chest plate, the kinetic force knocking the heavy man off his feet. Decryption at 80%, Elena chanted over the chaos. 90. Got it. The vault is open. Behind the remaining pinned-down guards, the massive 3-foot-thick steel vault door hissed loudly and swung outward on hydraulic hinges. Marcus, cover me, Victor yelled. He sprinted through the hail of bullets, sliding across the polished floor, and slipped seamlessly into the vault. Inside, it was dead silent, bathed in an ethereal, pulsing blue light. In the center, resting on an anti-gravity pedestal, was the Ares drive. Victor didn't hesitate to admire it. He snatched the drive, securing it instantly in his Faraday-shielded titanium case. Step 3 complete, Victor said into the comms, his breathing perfectly even. Extraction, now. Victor stepped back out of the vault, throwing a thick smoke grenade into the corridor. Dense gray smoke instantly filled the space, blinding the remaining heavily armed guards. Fall back, Marcus. To the windows, Victor ordered. Marcus fired one last prolonged burst into the smokescreen and sprinted toward the floor-to-ceiling windows at the far end of the corridor. Elena, where is our ride? Victor asked, sprinting right behind Marcus. Check your 6, boss, Elena replied, a triumphant grin in her voice. Outside the shattered window, hovering precariously 100 feet above the neon-lit Frankfurt streets, a black, unmarked tactical helicopter cut through the night. The side door was open, and Julian, their extraction pilot, gave them a swift two-fingered salute. "Step 4!" Marcus yelled, a wild, adrenaline-fueled grin breaking across his face. Marcus and Victor leapt through the shattered glass frame without hesitation, the freezing night air hitting them like a physical blow. They deployed their wrist-mounted micro-zip lines, the magnetic tethers flying out and catching the helicopter's reinforced landing skids. The automated winches pulled them up violently, dragging them into the cabin just as the surviving security forces burst into the smoke-filled corridor behind them, firing blindly into the empty night sky. The helicopter banked hard, diving dangerously low into the cityscape and disappearing into the concrete labyrinth of skyscrapers before the authorities could even track their airspace. Inside the chopper, the deafening roar of the rotors made it almost impossible to hear. Marcus fell back against the cargo netting, a thin line of blood trickling from a graze on his cheek, his chest heaving. He started laughing, a raw release of built-up tension. Victor sat opposite him, perfectly composed, straightening his jacket. He unclipped his harness and opened the titanium case. The Ares drive glowed softly, casting a luminescent blue hue across his hardened features. Elena's voice crackled warmly in their earpieces, sounding thoroughly exhausted. "Vital signs are stable. Network traces erased. Local police are swarming the building, but they are looking for ghosts. We did it. $2 billion. Marcus looked at the drive, then up at Victor, shaking his head. "I'll admit, Victor, when that air-gapped alarm tripped, I thought we were dead. I froze. I was looking way past the summit." Victor snapped the titanium case shut, the sound sharp and final over the hum of the chopper. He looked out the window at the receding, glittering lights of the city below. People fail because they look at the enormity of what they want to achieve. They see the impossible odds. They look at the $2 billion in the army guarding it. But success, even massive, world-altering success, isn't magic, Marcus. It is simply a long, unbroken series of perfectly executed, precise actions. Victor leaned back, the adrenaline finally settling into a quiet satisfaction. "One step at a time," Victor said. Marcus nodded slowly, wiping the blood from his cheek with the back of his tactical glove. "One step at a time."